Welcome to the Ruthmere Museum Campus. Our two historic house museums, the Havilah Beardsley House and Ruthmere Mansion, tell the rich story of the development of Elkhart, Indiana. The story of Elkhart begins with water. Elkhart is home to two major converging water sources, the Elkhart and St. Joseph Rivers. These rivers served as an abundant resource, sustaining a lush ecosystem that depended on it for food, water, and energy. Archaeological evidence proves that native First Peoples have lived in this region for thousands of years, with the historic tribes of the Miami and Potawatomi being the recorded groups who were here at the time of the white explorers and settlers. By the time the first white settlers arrived in this area, the land was owned by Potawatomi Chief Pierre Moran. Moran was awarded the land as a result of an 1821 treaty between the United States and the Ottawa, Chippewa, and Potawatomi tribes. The settlers established the village of Pulaski in 1828 and built a grist mill at the mouth of the Christiana Creek, another important water source that feeds directly into the St. Joseph River. A doctor by the name of Havilah Beardsley had heard of the beauty of the St. Joseph River Valley. While traveling, he stopped in Pulaski and noticed the potential of the three waterways coming together. Filled with the ambition to build a town at this place of great natural resources, Havilah, his wife Rachel, and their children moved to Elkhart from Ohio by 1830. In 1831, Havilah approached Chief Pierre Moran with an offer. The two had a mutual respect for one another that allowed Havilah to purchase the land that would eventually become Elkhart for $1,500 in 1832. Havilah's first order of business was to construct two rope ferries across the St. Joseph and Elkhart rivers and charge a toll for people to cross with their goods. Over the next several years, he used the water power from the rivers and Christiana Creek to build 6 mills across Elkhart County, including Elkhart's first saw, flour, paper, and carding mills. Due to the success of his businesses, Havilah and Rachel were able to build a new homestead on the north bank of the St. Joseph River in 1848. The Havilah Beardsley House remained in the Beardsley family until 1913. Over the next century, the house had 6 different owners, and the Havilah Beardsley House went through several changes. The Ruthmere Foundation purchased the home in 2007, and in 2020 acquired the Carriage House Horse Stables, which now serves as the Beardsley Discovery Center. After Havilah's death in 1856, Rachel Beardsley wrote to family relatives in Ohio to ask if any would come help with family business in Elkhart. After receiving his aunt's letter, teenage Albert Beardsley traveled to Elkhart from Dayton, Ohio, beginning work as a clerk in a dry goods store. In 1870, he purchased the dry goods store, and in 1878, he purchased the Muzzy Starch Company. He quickly gained a reputation in Elkhart as a shrewd businessman and entrepreneur, just as Havilah had been. Albert married Elizabeth Baldwin in 1872. Elizabeth was a born socialite, outgoing, charitable, and charming, the perfect match for a rising business magnate. In 1889, Albert was approached by Dr. Franklin Miles, a local doctor who was impressed by Albert's business acumen. Together with local businessman George Compton, they formed a new pharmaceutical enterprise, the Dr. Miles Medical Company, later called Miles Laboratories. Miles Laboratories would become a world-famous company under Albert's management. Albert and Elizabeth commissioned a local architect, E. Hill Turnock, to design a new home in 1908. The Beardsleys selected one of the city's premier riverfront sites, overlooking Island Park and the confluence of the rivers. The house would be named Ruthmere, an homage to their only daughter, Ruth, who died in infancy in 1881. It was to be Beaux Arts in design, and Albert insisted that Turnock use as many American building supplies as possible, while still taking style inspiration from France and Italy. By 1910, Turnock completed their new showcase home. Ruthmere boasted hand-carved limestone ornamentation, mahogany woodwork, painted murals, stained glass ceilings, and exquisitely crafted plaster molds. Each room was a unique work of art from floor to ceiling. For 14 years, Albert and Elizabeth entertained friends, family, and business associates in grand style. By this time, Albert had become active in politics, serving in several local offices as well as 2 terms in the Indiana Senate. Elizabeth was known for her many charitable and civic activities. She supported women's right to vote and was known as Elkhart's Flag Lady, as she donated American flags to local schools and other civic organizations. At Ruthmere, Albert and Elizabeth often hosted get-togethers centered on politics, games, or music. Albert and Elizabeth both died within a few short months of each other in 1924. After Albert and Elizabeth's deaths, their nephew, Arthur Beardsley, and his wife, Stella, took up residence at Ruthmere. Between 1925 and 1944, Arthur and Stella oversaw a period of transition at the house. Staff sizes were reduced, the kitchen and pantries were updated, and an elevator was installed for Stella's use. The deaths of both Arthur and Stella by 1944 ended the era of Beardsley family ownership of Ruthmere. The Cheryl and Helen Deputy family purchased the home in 1945, saving it from an uncertain future. The family moved to Indiana from Omaha, Nebraska, so that Cheryl could work for the Wheelabrator Company in Mishawaka. They needed a home they could move into right away, and Ruthmere was on the market. Cheryl learned that other potential buyers were considering buying the historic home and making updates that would destroy the original finishes. This prompted the deputies to make an immediate offer for purchase, thus preserving it for future generations. This was the first and only family to have children call Ruthmere home. Their 6 boys grew up in a bustling household. The boys lived in the service quarters of the home, while their parents enjoyed what was once Elizabeth's bedroom suite. The deputies remained at Ruthmere for 23 years, the longest duration for any family to live in the home. With their children grown, Cheryl and Helen decided to sell the house in 1968, when Robert Beardsley and his father, Walter, approached them with a vision for the future as a public house museum. Robert Beardsley, an architectural preservationist, was the great-great-nephew of Ruthmere's original owners, Albert and Elizabeth. His focus was to restore the home to its former glory. Ruthmere opened as a house museum in 1973 with Robert as director. It is not only a restored piece of American history, but also the home of a world-class art collection procured by Robert, Walter, and over 50 years of professional museum staff. Today, visitors from around the world come to experience Ruthmere's history, art, and architecture. In addition to offering guided tours, the Ruthmere campus hosts public programs and private events such as classical and popular music concerts, seasonal teas, gallery talks, garden workshops, family tree research, free family Sundays, weddings, and photo shoots for your special occasion. If you are interested in supporting Ruthmere, we invite you to become a member or to consider sponsoring one of our quality programs. We hope you enjoy your tour, and thank you for visiting the Ruthmere campus.